I'm sorry. That was acting. That's what that was. I don't really care what happens with this movie. I really hope her career is pretty much over. I'd be thrilled to see that. I can't imagine. I mean, Christian, you tell me.
Have you changed up your impression at all, or is it pretty much the same?
Well, the noise is the same. I've not got any more noises in my back pocket. The new infected are pretty terrifying. They're so smart, and they haven't really got a noise. That's the whole point of them. They're silent and terrifying.
Ooh, give us a little silent and terrifying.
Hollywood has a long history of turning its brightest rising stars into cautionary tales. But even by those ruthless standards, Bella Ramsey's fall from grace has been nothing short of shocking. Not long ago, Bella was seen as unstoppable. She wasn't just a young actress, she was a symbol. The tough, unapologetic, fearless face of HBO's The Last of Us, leading one of the most talked-about shows on the planet. Critics praised her. Awards buzz followed. Industry insiders whispered that Bella was on the verge of becoming the next big thing. The kind of breakout star who could dominate both the small screen and the silver screen for years to come. But fame in Hollywood is fragile. And the higher you climb, the harder you fall. Because after months of behind-the-scenes drama, creative clashes, and growing tensions with some of the biggest names in the business, Bella's dream career hasn't just stalled, it's crashed headfirst into a wall of controversy. And the final blow, the one decision that sent shockwaves through the entertainment world, the cancellation of The Last of Us 3, the project that was supposed to cement her legacy, has instead exposed a messy, brutal side of the industry and a personal meltdown so public, it's impossible to ignore. How did one of Hollywood's fastest rising stars go from global acclaim to complete career implosion? The full story is darker, messier, and far more twisted than you've heard. So before we dive into the real madness, make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming next. June 14th, 2025. A day that should have marked a milestone for HBO and the Last of Us franchise. Instead, it marked the beginning of the end. In a move that left fans stunned and the entertainment industry scrambling for answers, HBO executives quietly pulled the plug on The Last of Us 3. No press conference, no dramatic statements from the network, no vague teasers about creative differences. Just a brief, sterile production memo circulated behind closed doors, reading, "Development halted indefinitely." No further comment. It was the entertainment equivalent of a hit and run. One moment, the franchise was alive and thriving, dominating social media, fan events, and streaming charts. And the next, it vanished. But if you think this decision came out of nowhere, think again. For months leading up to the cancellation, industry insiders were already whispering that things behind the scenes had spiraled out of control. Production delays, script rewrites, escalating tensions between the show's key players, and at the very center of the storm, Bella Ramsey. Officially, HBO cited unforeseen circumstances for the cancellation, offering no concrete details. But according to sources close to the production, people who witnessed the breakdown firsthand, the real reason had been brewing for a long time. The drama wasn't about budget cuts or audience fatigue. It wasn't even about the controversial storylines that divided fans online. It was about power, control, and the growing belief that Bella Ramsey had become too unpredictable, too volatile for a project of this scale. And while the headlines focused on the show's cancellation, the real story was just beginning to unravel behind the scenes. A story of clashes, betrayal, and a rising star whose ambition may have outgrown her reputation. It didn't take long for cracks to show. Just 48 hours after the news broke, paparazzi photos surfaced. Bella spotted outside HBO studios, visibly shaken, wiping away tears. Social media posts followed, vague, cryptic, and concerning. Some doors slammed shut for good, and maybe they should. The caption sent the internet spiraling. Was she done with acting? Was this a farewell? But according to insiders, that was just the beginning of the real meltdown. Behind closed doors, Bella wasn't devastated. She was livid. Accusations flew, blame was thrown, and what unfolded next shocked even her closest allies. For months, whispers of trouble had been building. Crew members described an increasingly toxic atmosphere on set. And the source, they claimed, wasn't just creative disagreements. It was Bella herself. Multiple insiders alleged that Bella clashed with HBO executives and writers, pushing for major rewrites, demanding character changes, and even threatening to walk if her ideas weren't taken seriously. Her vision? A version of The Last of Us that, according to crew members, put personal agendas ahead of the story. One insider put it bluntly, This wasn't collaboration, it was chaos. And everyone knew if Bella didn't get her way, she'd make sure no one did. The tension wasn't just rumors, it seeped into the production, delaying filming, frustrating directors, and souring the once celebrated series. And while fans thought they were getting a faithful continuation of the beloved franchise, behind the scenes the cracks were already deepening, and they were about to explode. Behind every great show, there's always tension. But when that tension starts leaking into the headlines and fueling internet conspiracies, you know it's more than just creative disagreements. And that's exactly what happened between Bella Ramsey and Neil Druckmann, the creator of The Last of Us. For a while, they presented a united front, praising each other during interviews, smiling for press photos, pretending that everything behind the scenes was picture perfect. But as insiders now reveal, the truth couldn't have been further from the image they sold the world. According to multiple sources inside the production, Bella and Neil's relationship began to deteriorate during the early development of Season 2. It started small, disagreements over character arcs, script rewrites, minor creative choices. But those small cracks widened fast. Bella, empowered by her sudden fame and the global success of Season 1, reportedly became more vocal, more demanding, and more insistent that her input should carry significant weight in the show's direction. She wanted to modernize certain storylines, shift character dynamics, and, as one crew member bluntly put it, reshape the show into her own vision. But Neil Druckmann? He wasn't having it. For him, The Last of Us wasn't just a job. It was his legacy, his story, his creation. And watching it be pulled apart by someone he felt was inexperienced in storytelling, no matter how popular they were, was not something he was willing to tolerate quietly. Tensions escalated behind closed doors, heated arguments during production meetings, passive-aggressive interviews, and eventually, according to insiders, full-blown shouting matches on set. The rift grew so wide that by the time discussions for The Last of Us 3 began, the two weren't even speaking directly. Everything was filtered through producers and legal teams, with both sides digging in their heels and neither willing to compromise. And when that happens on a project this high profile, it's only a matter of time before the whole thing comes crashing down. In Hollywood, your reputation is everything. And for Bella Ramsey, the image she had so carefully crafted, the bold, fearless, refreshingly honest rising star, began to crumble almost overnight. What started as whispers from disgruntled crew members quickly snowballed into a full-blown narrative that Bella wasn't just difficult, she was dangerous to work with. Industry insiders began to speak more openly, leaking details about her alleged on-set behavior. Reports surfaced of constant delays due to her rewriting scenes on the fly, demanding last-minute wardrobe changes, and even threatening to walk off set when things didn't go her way. And it wasn't just The Last of Us. Word got out that Bella's behind-the-scenes antics were scaring off other productions too. Disney had reportedly been in advanced talks with her for a lead role in a high-budget streaming series. But as soon as the drama with HBO became public, the project quietly moved on without her. Netflix, too, was eyeing Bella for a starring role in one of their upcoming young adult dramas. But with her name now attached to rumors of creative clashes and power struggles, the streaming giant decided she was too much of a liability. Agents started hesitating, studios kept their distance, casting directors, once eager to work with her, suddenly weren't returning calls. The same Hollywood machine that lifted Bella to stardom was now doing what it does best, protecting itself, cutting ties, and moving on to the next marketable star who wouldn't bring scandal and chaos to their set. And just like that, Bella's once bright future dimmed in the harsh glow of industry reality. With her projects collapsing and her reputation in tatters, Bella did what most celebrities do when their careers hit turbulence. She turned to damage control. But instead of repairing her image, the result was an even bigger disaster. In a series of emotional interviews following The Last of Us 3 cancellation, Bella tried to reframe the narrative. Sitting across from sympathetic hosts, she painted herself as a victim of industry politics, a young actress caught in the ruthless machine of Hollywood, punished for simply speaking her mind and fighting for her vision. But while her words may have been carefully rehearsed, her tone told a different story. Viewers weren't convinced. What was meant to be a heartfelt plea for understanding came across as defensive, condescending, and, at times, arrogant. Social media didn't hesitate to dissect every word. Clips went viral of Bella dismissing fan concerns, shifting blame onto unnamed executives, and implying that critics simply didn't understand the pressures of creative leadership. Reddit threads exploded with backlash. YouTube commentators, once supportive, turned critical. Fans who had defended her during the early days of The Last of Us now openly questioned her behavior. Even longtime supporters couldn't ignore how calculated and out of touch her words sounded. The more Bella tried to explain, the more damage she did. Because the hard truth is, in Hollywood, public sympathy doesn't come easily, especially when the receipts, the rumors, and the reputation all tell a different story. When a Hollywood scandal reaches a boiling point, it rarely stays confined to canceled projects and angry fans. Sooner or later, the lawyers show up. And for Bella Ramsey, that moment is now. Behind the scenes, things have taken an even darker turn. According to multiple reports leaking from inside HBO and associated production companies, legal teams have been quietly assembling their cases. And while no formal charges have been announced yet, the pieces of the puzzle are painting an alarming picture. It all started with the contracts. Insiders claim that Bella may have breached multiple non-disclosure agreements, casually leaking confidential production details to third parties under the guise of creative collaboration. At first, executives reportedly tried to handle the issue privately, hoping to avoid even more bad press. But as tensions escalated and Bella's off-script behavior became impossible to ignore, those same executives allegedly began compiling evidence. Emails, text messages, confidential meeting notes, all pointing to a pattern of Bella crossing professional lines and possibly violating the very agreements that allowed her to remain involved with The Last of Us in the first place. And it gets worse. Some sources claim there's talk of potential defamation lawsuits stemming from Bella's public interviews. By insinuating that HBO executives and writers sabotaged her or manipulated the narrative, she may have opened herself up to legal retaliation. And in an industry this cutthroat, few are willing to let those accusations slide unchallenged. One entertainment lawyer, speaking anonymously to industry outlets, summed it up best. If the networks feel she's damaging their reputation or threatening future profits, they won't hesitate to bury her, legally and professionally. It's a brutal reality of the business. And right now, Bella isn't just facing public backlash. She may soon be fighting for her career in court. For most actors, a few bad headlines or one canceled project can be weathered. The entertainment industry is built on comebacks, redemption arcs, and second chances. But for Bella Ramsey, this isn't a stumble. It's a full-scale collapse. In the weeks following The Last of Us 3 cancellation, the dominoes have fallen at record speed. First, her highly anticipated Disney Plus series was quietly removed from their upcoming schedule. No official announcement, no explanation. Just gone, erased like it was never part of the plan. Next came the indie films. For months, Bella had been attached to several prestige projects, indie darlings that promised to showcase her dramatic range and help her break away from the Last of Us image. But as the controversy deepened, those negotiations evaporated overnight. Production companies stopped returning calls. Casting directors pivoted to safer options. And perhaps the most telling sign of all, the silence from her former co-stars and industry allies. Pedro Pascal, once publicly supportive of Bella, has noticeably distanced himself. No more joint interviews, no more playful social media banter. Insiders say even their professional relationship has grown icy. The message is clear: Hollywood has made up its mind. Bella Ramsey, once hailed as the future of the industry, is now seen as a liability, a walking controversy no studio wants to touch. And the saddest part? It didn't have to be this way. Bella had the talent, the platform, and the opportunity to build a lasting legacy. But instead of playing the long game, she got caught up in the power, the influence, and the illusion that she could control the narrative, on and off screen. And now, that narrative has turned into her worst nightmare. Bella Ramsey thought The Last of Us was just the beginning of her reign over Hollywood, the moment she'd cement her name among the industry elite. But what started as a dream has spiraled into a cautionary tale of ego, control, and a career undone by controversy. The shows are canceled, the roles are gone, the allies have vanished, and the only thing growing around Bella now is the silence. Because when Hollywood turns its back on you, there's no applause, no second chances, and no rewrite of the script. And for Bella Ramsey, This may be the role she never wanted. The villain in her own downfall. If you thought this meltdown was wild, just wait. What's coming next might be even more shocking. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button because trust me, Bella's story, it's far from over.